Hey folks, Matt Easton here, Scholar Gladiator. So I was just watching one of Shadiversity's videos. It's a three-part series on Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. It's a funny coincidence because I only just noticed that he had these on his channel. I was catching up with some videos on other channels I watch, Shad's being one of those, and I recently did the 5 worst movie swords video that featured Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves and Azim's sword. And that's pure coincidence because I've literally only discovered Shad's video. But Shad said something in part 2, I'll link his video series below, but he said something in part 2 about how medieval swords are held. And he criticised how Kevin Costner, or Robin Hood, was holding his sword at one point. Now, this is a bastard sword, Robin Hood, but I've chosen it because it's easier to illustrate with a longer grip. Robin Hood was pointing at something and holding the sword like this with a couple of inches at least of handle showing or grip showing above his hand. And Shad expressed the view that this was wrong to hold a medieval sword like that. Well, actually, I'm afraid to say, Shad, you're wrong. But you're not hugely wrong. Okay, so generally speaking, it is true what you said, that if you have your hand at the top of a sword grip, then yes, indeed, it puts your hand closer to the point of balance. Although you could just change the point of balance, you could make a lighter pommel, take the pommel off, throw it at someone, end them rightly. That would change the point of balance. Theoretically, you don't put the hand at the top of the grip to make it closer to the point of balance. If you wanted the point of balance to be closer to your hand, you just put a heavier pommel on the end to make it back weighted and bring the point of balance closer to your hand. There are many reasons why you might want to have the hand further down from the grip, but first of all I should point out that it is historical in some cases to have the hand further down from the grip, and in fact this is shown in quite a lot of medieval manuscripts where actually the hand is not right up near the top. Now, one of the reasons to have the hand near the top actually is you can put your finger over the guard. Now, this is something that wasn't done very much in 1190 when Robin Hood's set, but it's something that was certainly done by the 13th, 14th century, and in fact quite a lot by the late 15th century, to the point that finger rings obviously were developed. But you guys all know that, and so does Shad. So yes, certainly, very often swords are held with the hand at the top of the grip. But just to reiterate, hands are sometimes shown further down from the cross, okay, from the guard, for a number of reasons, but the fact is that historically it's definitely shown. So we can't say that having the hand lower down from the guard, having a gap between our hand and the guard, is per se wrong, because it's shown in medieval art and they clearly did it sometimes. Some people might say, but that could just be the medieval art is wrong. Well, yeah, that is theoretically true, but I don't think that's the case because it's shown in quite a lot of different sources. And many people have noted that if you hold a sword, if we're just talking about a long sword for an instant, if you put your hand right up near the top, then when the opponent's blade comes down here, you're more likely to get nicked on your hand. Okay, if you move the hand down further than the cross, now the angle of the blade over here won't touch your hand. Okay, so there are reasons why sometimes, and also you gain reach. The further back you hold the weapon, the longer you make it. Anybody who's done modern fencing will know that modern épée fencers very often hold their weapons as low down as they can possibly get at the pommel end to gain a couple of inches of extra reach, because obviously in épée fencing the first person to hit scores the point. And it seems certainly with some later period swords, small swords for example, that the hand is placed very much down at the bottom and the thumb and finger placed up along the grip. Now, I'm not saying that medieval swords were generally held like this, or that you should do it. But what I am saying is that categorically stating that putting your hand low down is wrong is in itself wrong. This is shown in medieval art, and there are reasons why you might want to do it with a one-handed sword or a two-handed sword for added hand protection and to gain a bit of extra reach. And also, frankly, the pommels, particularly the Brazil nut type pommel as shown on Robin Hood's sword in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, actually provide quite a lot of leverage, like a Viking sword or indeed like an Indian tulwar. So if your hand is against the pommel, you can gain extra leverage in a cut from that. So again, that's another reason why you might want to locate the hand at the bottom next to the pommel, not up next to the cross. In Robin Hood Prince of Thieves' case, that sword to me, for that period, looks like the grip is too long. If I had a grip that was too long and I was using, say, a Viking era sword, I would in fact want to locate my hand at the bottom next to the pommel of the Viking era sword. Let's just grab a Viking era sword and look at that for a second. So here is the earlier Viking era sword. This is an Albion Clontarf, incidentally, before anyone asks. I'm going to have to hold the blade here to demonstrate, but I'm doing it carefully because this is a sharp one. Right, there we go. So here is the hilt. Now you'll notice that the grip on this is 9 centimeters long, I can tell you, and that is of a historical length. Many Viking era sword replicas that you see, or indeed if you look at the TV show Vikings or things like that, they make the grips longer for the comfort of modern people. That's not because modern people necessarily have bigger hands, it's simply because modern people think that a sword needs to be held a certain way, and they're wrong, and so they ask for a longer grip. Or indeed, in some cases, for example, reenactment, because they're wearing a padded glove and they can't fit a padded glove around this small grip. But small grips are very much a feature of Viking era swords, and the short grip continues way into, really, you could say, the 12th, 13th century. Okay, so in the time of Robin Hood, of the film, so 1190s, we would expect most swords to have short grips. Now, if I was to grip this and locate my hand to the top next to the crossguard there, we have a problem. The problem being that pommel. Look at the shape of that pommel. That pommel now digs into my hand. Potentially, if it was an even longer grip, it could dig into my arm or my wrist. So we don't do that. With this type of sword, we actually locate the hand to the bottom, okay? So if I turn it around to that side, my little finger goes right up against the pommel there, and now the pommel sits in my hand, aligns the edge and works perfectly. But you'll notice that creates a gap, in my case about 1/2 centimetre, because I've got reasonably big hands. It creates a gap between my hand and the guard. So there we go. Robin Hood Prince of Thieves, Kevin Costner could have been doing it exactly right, but whether you want to put the hand to the top for various reasons or to the bottom for various other reasons, you can't say that one is right or wrong. They're just done with different swords for different reasons and for different advantages and corresponding disadvantages. I hope that was interesting, and definitely go and watch Shad's videos because they're very amusing. I also grew up with the film. I don't know if I must be about the same age as Shad, I guess. Maybe he's insulted by that, maybe I'm older, I don't know. But I very much grew up with Robin Hood Prince of Thieves as well. I think I was probably in my... When did it come out? I think I was in my early teenage years when Robin Hood Prince of Thieves came out. But I enjoyed it a lot, and I'm glad to hear that Shad did as well. So go and watch his videos and think a bit about gripping swords, look through medieval manuscripts and see there's many different ways of doing it. Cheers folks! Thanks for watching, please subscribe, we have extra videos on Patreon and you can follow us on Facebook.